Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, clearly not respecting the Supreme Court, getting out there saying, oh, yeah, we need to do this. We need to pay off people's student loans for them. Forget any individual responsibility. Drew, do we have this? I want to go to it.
And what we have seen, we have now forgiven over $150 billion in student loan debt. On average, we're looking at somewhere around $70,000 per person. And especially if we're talking about people in public service, nurses, firefighters, teachers, and doubling the number for them. But one of the other things I'd ask the leaders here in terms of helping me get the word out, let people know they qualify for student loan debt even if they never graduated.
Yeah. Didn't have to graduate to get the student loan debt relief. I mean, forget about the fact that, the poor Joe Schmo over there who was working 3 jobs and trying to put his kid through school, or better yet, how about Joe Schmo or Jill Schmo who said, I can't afford to go to school. I'm going to go and start a business and work my tail off and have another job to help me support that business that I'm starting. And now I got to pay for you to have just hung out and maybe protested on college campuses? If I have to pay for you to have had a good time? I'm sorry. That is not how America works. Listen, I'm not going to argue that inflation is out of control, is not out of control when it comes to education costs. It is, all right? It is. And it is out of control for one reason and one reason only, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you why. Because the federal government can't get its hand out of there. They're the ones offering the Pell Grants. They're the ones with all the loans. They're the ones offering this, that, and the other. And when you give out so many freebies, what do? It's like the M2 money supply, right? That's gone up 40% during the COVID years. You flood the market with dollars. And when you flood the market with dollars, you're going to need more and more and more dollars in order to pull it off. So this is a problem. And these kids, they don't get it. In fact, there's one student that was just quoted moments ago over at Columbia University. And this particular student who has joined in the fun, shall we say, of taking over, breaking windows and taking over Hamilton Hall, which they now want renamed for somebody who was killed in Gaza. Hale Hall, I believe it is. Do we have that video, Drew? You can see these kids there. Hale Hall, they're now naming it. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, thank you for that. You've got the kids dropping down their new sign. Forgive me, it's Hins Hall. It's Hins Hall. So these students that have now taken over Hamilton Hall, trying to rename it, well, apparently that's not it. They want more because it's give me, give me, give me, give me. There's no sense of reality, no sense that money costs anything. It's all just there for them to take. I want you to see this young woman on campus, my alma mater, Columbia University. She's part of the crew that's taken over Hamilton Hall, and she wants more.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately, in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building. Now would you please bring us food and water?
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food?
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
but
violently.
They haven't stopped it.
Well, I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
And the Grubhub.
They're looking for a commitment from the university to bring the food and water in. They chose to take over the hall illegally. And yet these students who theoretically should be smart enough. I don't know. Did they get rid of the SAT at Columbia? Clearly that whole experiment didn't go so well. Seems like you better reinstitute the test, guys, at every university like yesterday. So they go and take over the hall, and now they're mad because they don't have food and water, and they don't want to leave. So they're in there, and they're demanding food and water, and they're saying, well, we've paid for it anyway. It's part of our tuition. I'm sorry. This is what us taxpayers have to somehow support. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden want you to help support her as she protests. I don't know if she specifically was responsible for the broken windows, but she's clearly part of the team. And I think Americans are going to look at this, especially come November 2024, and they're not going to forget. This is not who we are. Things have gone too far. And this all, once again, plays in Donald Trump's favor. Pure and simple, not that hard.